everybody. Adrian, please. Sorry. I'm trying to open the meeting.
Carry on.
Right. Welcome councillors, members of the parish and visitors to the meeting. Members are now invited to address the council prior to the commencement of the meeting. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the meeting?
Have I got to stand up?
You can stand up.
Basically, I think you might have all got letters from me. I'm Mrs. Pike, caller. I put in for planning for a house and I in between. What's the thingy here? Yes, that's the one. Basically, we're from Cornwall, our family. We're trying to. We've never had a house of our own, and we're just trying to, build our own house, basically. And we just like your, like you to back us, really. Sort of like, it's myself, my husband, and my little boy who's disabled, and this is my daughter. She's married herself, and I've got a son who's abroad. But it'll just be the three of us. But I'd like your support if possible. And that's it, really. I've got the plans here ready. We'd like to look at them, and that's it.
Any councillor?
The
plans are here.
Oh, the plans are here. Okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that raise questions? Yes, please.
Just wonder, was any update on the Lanteglos potholes?
Update on Lanteglos potholes.
Whether there's anything going to be done about them, or are we going to wreck our cars before it happens?
Well, I've been assured by Mark Brewster, who's on leave at the moment. I've got a meeting with him in a fortnight's time. He assured me, and I said, look, I've got a meeting on Monday. I want to be able to answer the public their questions and allay their fears. And he stated the operational team are running about a month behind. All the potholes, despite the green markings wearing off, have been GPS'd, and they should be around repairing these potholes within the next fortnight.
Oh, well.
They're doing Tribeca now, aren't they? Because isn't that the road past Tribeca?
No, that's a recognised closure.
Oh, yeah,
That's only for everything.
They filled in those horrible ones in the pond.
Yeah, that's a recognised closure. Yes, please.
But one lady in the village, I know, has commented that she has had one new tyre that costs £150, plus an alloy wheel that's awaiting a repair. But the problem is, John, how long are we going to carry on being fobbed off by these people? And isn't it time they got shook up a bit more?
I understood they could
I've shook them up as much as I can do. The top man from Cormac, who resolves all these claims and inspects the roads, Mr. Adrian Drake, has inspected all our roads. Councillor Hannaford and myself took him round fully, and that is the best we can do.
Yeah, but you turned down to fate, John, as you told me, but you never went on about 2 yards further, and you've had potholes all the way to where you turn off the Carnegie council houses.
And I was
the road, both sides there, got potholes.
I was a bit unsure where our borders end.
But your borders end at Landlorne.
Well, when I go round with Mark Brewster within the next fortnight, if he appears, then I should go up Butts Park and down the back of Butts Park.
Yeah.
But don't get our road, because when they repaired Fuzzball, they actually wrecked our lane.
They wrecked Polchak Lane where they're repairing now, put that water pipe in.
No, the water pipe is just right on the junction there, they're just putting new water mains in. That's all they're doing, they aren't touching anything else on that road.
So if everybody can give me a list of which lanes they want inspected.
Well, I don't think it's a question of inspecting, John. I mean, say it's a question of getting somebody to do these potholes that have been recognised already.
Well,
and then inspect the rest.
I've tried my best, Councillor Hannaford's tried her best.
Yeah, I understand that.
We just got to wait.
And I appreciate that, but if we're getting flogged off all the time, Lanteglos parish is the back of the queue and everything.
Yeah, but there's a horrible thing going up from Foy. I mean, it's not just Lanteglos, it's all over the place.
All we can do is raise our protest, but I've been to the top, and that's what the top's message is. The only thing you can do is write a letter to Cheryl Murray, the MP.
Well, you can write so many letters you like, John, has done. I know that you've got a lot of things in hand because I was talking to Councillor Anna Ford and yourself out in the pond. And they're supposed to be coming to do that in a month, so we'll wait and see. Sure.
Any more questions?
Well, that would also address the non-flood down just past Essa. I see the flood signs are still up, although it's drained away, but I don't think anybody cleared it. I think it just...
No, Adrian Drake tasked the team to go and clear it at the same time as they was down Pont,
Yeah, it must have been cleared.
clearing Watergate.
It must have
The
been
same
cleared by
team-
somebody because it went
Isabel,
down suddenly.
can I talk,
Sorry.
please? Thank you. The same team that cleared Pont down Watergate, which was tasked by Adrian Drake, done the same day. They cleared the drains at Essa. And
Why did they pick up their flood signs?
well, I'm afraid I'm not the supervisor.
No,
of
I know that,
podcast.
John. It's a rhetorical
The
question.
reason is that they were at Bowline and they were nothing to do with Cormac.
Oh, right, thank you.
Thank you for the answer.
Right, next question, please. Any more questions from the members of the public? Councillor?
Yes, there was one, but whether or not it concerns everybody present, I don't know. But I was asked today, I see they put the new defib in place on the quay. The other day, a large van was parked right back on the defib. Now, if anyone wanted to get to that, they had no chance in hell of getting to it. I don't know whether or not the trust would take it on board that where it is at the moment, I don't know what the restrictions are on the defib and all the rest of it, but having a van parked very close to it leaves it inaccessible, so maybe my comments will be passed on to them.
Well, I could ask Mr Hill if there's anything the town trust could do, please.
It was put there because the fleet bloke waved his meter around and said that was the best place for it, where there was access to Wi-Fi and electricity and so on. Potentially I could see a car parking in too tight, but a big van I would have thought wouldn't be able to get in under the overhang, but I may be totally wrong. We'll certainly, first time I've heard about it, we'll have a look at it.
Thank you very much, Mr Hill. Yes, please.
I'd just like to say on the same point as that, because I see the shop are also dumping their platinum in their cardboard boxes, and basically the sense would tell you keep the defib clear. So I think the shop as well should keep their storing their rubbish from underneath it.
Thank you very much.
John, can I comment one more thing? Are there going to be notices placed in our notice boards to let everyone know exactly that this has been installed? Because I think at the moment there's only one, I might be totally wrong, there's only one, and that's outside the reading room. I've looked in our bottom notice board, there's nothing. I've looked in our big notice board, there's nothing. So it might be worthwhile, either us or whoever, just putting in notice to let everyone know that it has been installed.
I'll kindly leave that with Mr Hill.
So following on, carry on the defibrillator, I did email, is he
Norman Trebilcock.
He's never got back to me with regards to the Dinnick one. So I didn't have a chat number.
Chase that one up.
Well, in the lugger at the same time, who was that was next to you saying that he's on the first response team and he had no idea there was one on the quay, and he thought that he should be told if there was, because he's on the first response team.
Well, the first response team have got their own.
First
They
response
carried-
team to
carried
carry the
the
round, they
truck.
don't need the one on the gate.
I don't, no idea. So hands up, all I'm saying that
Yeah.
the inaccessible, it was inaccessible when vans or vehicles are close to, parked too closely.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. No more questions from members of the public? Question importance? Right.
You should have received today, I hope today, some details about the neighbourhood plan workshops that we've planned. Did I hear and see a nod? No? Okay. The workshops are based on responses to a recent survey. There will be 2 workshops in the east, and the topics include starting your plan, what is affordable housing and what is your housing need, collating your evidence base, strategic environment assessment screenings, developing your policies and pre-submission consultation and preparing for your referendum. So it's the whole gamut from starting to finish. Places are limited to 2 per group or per parish, and it's on a first come first served basis. So when it does wing its way to you, please make sure that you get an early acceptance in for that. A few things that are going on in Cornwall Council at the moment. I've mentioned before about a boundary review, which is now not going to happen until for 2021, as opposed to for next year, which was a ridiculously short space of time. But in addition to that, Cornwall Council are doing a governance review. So we're looking at our committees, responding to changes to the workload that we've got. So it's really looking to see what how we could improve our governance. As part of the devolution deal, we were committed to doing that. You would have heard that there's been a bit of furore about the removal of £150,000 funding for the Cornish language, which was promised during the devolution deal, or certainly very heavily indicated it would be supported. So that has had a lot of people are very upset about that. Plus, I see that Malcolm Bell is saying that the Cornish language, although we may not speak it extensively, it's part of what makes Cornwall distinctive, and it may have an effect on a knock-on effect. There are 3 motions at full council tomorrow, and you can tune in if you're really interested on the webcast. A St Piran's Day motion to council, so we'll get a day off for St Piran's Day in Cornwall. We've just had St George's Day, so St Patrick's Day, etc. So why shouldn't we have a St Piran's Day? So I'm not sure where that will go, but there's some that feel strongly about that. Second one, which I think is more important, and actually it's linked more to the governance review with the current government's policy about compelling all schools to become academies. So the motion is that we think in Cornwall that Cornwall's parents should choose whether their school becomes an academy, and if approved, a letter of the Secretary of State's been our position. And the way that's linked to the governance review is because if we're not managing any schools, do we need a committee that's looking at schools issues? The third one, again linked to the boundary review, is about opposition to the Devonmore constituency, which potentially could see a South East Cornwall Plymouth constituency, or a North Devon, North Cornwall constituency. I think it's quite important that we maintain the integrity of Cornwall as a region, as a unit, and I can only see if South East Cornwall's lumped in with parts of Plymouth, that could be to the detriment of a smaller electorate in South East Cornwall. I know you're fully engaged with paperless planning, and your projector is testament to that, but there is a new one-click option for downloaded related documents. I don't know whether you've used it.
No.
On the portal. This was something that was raised at the paperless planning workshops and training sessions. They wanted a means of downloading all the related documents with just one click, so it retains the name of the application rather than a randomly generated file name being generated. So the IT department has come up with that one click, so it's all downloaded into one place, with meaningful names. I think that we should be thanking Dean Jenkins down in Grandpound, who developed his own app to help other parish councils not quite so savvy as you, because when we asked the IT department of Cornwall Council could they do it, they said no. So this guy went away and did it himself, and then the IT department said, oh well, perhaps we can, and it's there on the website now. So his innovative work, I think, was the impetus for Cornwall Council. Two other items I wanted to talk about, but they're on the agenda, so I'll wait till that comes, and that's about the signage and about the potholes.
Next is members to consider the updating of signage in Cornwall, which was deferred from the March meeting. The reason why it was deferred was due to the cost, and also we were going to ask, Edwina was tasked to ask County Council to find out how come Paul Power got a discount.
Well, it's a slightly different issue, because theirs is not just replacement of defective signs. Theirs is a whole new traffic regulation order, so it's a very different animal. It's two different things. As we explained before, one is about enforcement and one is about stopping people from doing stuff on the highways. It's two different bits of legislation. So theirs is a TRO, yours is difficult to enforce because the signs aren't up to date. So it's two different things. So a traffic regulation order, minimum cost is £5,000, and there were issues on Paul Perrow's traffic regulation order. It was incorrectly written, that meant that it was causing them problems. So Cornwall County, going donkey's years back, not recently, I think the order had been in place for, I don't know, 20 odd years. So, but Cornwall Council took responsibility for those inaccuracies that were causing the problem. It's a different problem here. It's not the traffic regulation order, it's just defective signs. However, I can't think of his name now. Was it Greg, Neil Gregg, yes. I apologise, I should have done that last week, but I didn't. But I have done it today. I've been first day back to work today. He had a bit, I used that argument, I used the Paul Perrow argument, and he reflected back to me what I've just said to you. So I went, yeah, but, so I've tried. The only little shine of chink in the armour was, he said, we are in a new budget year, so that might be in your favour. So I've asked for a contribution, but I don't know the answer yet, because I only did that today, I'm sorry.
Can I ask one thing, please? Well, one of two things. If someone's been issued a parking ticket over the last few years, and these signs are not legal,
They only have 2 weeks
are they
to...
entitled
No,
to their money back?
we asked that question, and no, they're
No?
not. No, and not unless they want to go big time through the courts, but you've got 2 weeks to, I think it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, he said, you've got
2
2
weeks.
weeks from the
Yeah,
time.
but nobody knew at the time, so it's only just come to light recently. Now, also,
You can try.
they're saying that the highways say we should put the signage back. They get the money from the fines that they issue, the penalty notices. Why don't they put the signage back?
Okay,
Because we get nothing out of it.
good reason for that is that the Civil Enforcement Department costs £2,000 over and above what they gain from penalty notices. So it's not a profit-making exercise. It actually costs the taxpayer £200,000 a year. So I did a bit of research on that, because I thought the same as you, but I'm afraid it doesn't work like that. Again, this
So
is
it's
a victim
It's a
of...
loss maker then, is it?
Well, it is, yeah. It is. It costs the taxpayer, last time I checked, £200,000 a year to subsidise the running of civil enforcement in Cornwall. So it doesn't make money for the council, it covers the cost, or doesn't cover the cost. And again, in the past there used to be budgets for replacement of signs. There is no budget for replacement of signs. Just another sign of the times, sorry. Terrible pun.
Is it compulsory for us to put the signs back?
You don't have to do it, but then it would be very difficult for anybody to enforce. Tough.
So we're presenting with a fait accompli. The only thing we can do is go ahead with the signage and at the same time ask Craig Taylor for what his contribution is going to be like.
And I'm Chairman, I've done that today.
So we do fair it to the next meeting.
So there's no way we're spending money on that, we could be doing roads. Absolutely no way.
Well, then you've got an inherent problem that people can park where they want, and you can't do anything about it.
There's the other point though, if people are, because enforcement barely happens, it's worth people taking the risk of parking on the street, because for a week you're likely to get away with it. So, you know, if we pay £4 grand, was it 4 or 5 grand then, have new signs, are we going to get an enforcement officer come more regularly?
Only if it's fine.
They'll lose money, won't it?
Well, exactly, you know, so if the enforcement officer's not coming, what's the point in investing in something that's going to...
I think you're flogging a dead horse there.
All we can do is ask for a percentage of contribution and come back and see if the council wishes to agree to change the signage.
Well, rather than keep deferring it, I would suggest that if we agree, you know, obviously, if they're going to pay 50% of the cost, then we'll go ahead. But if they're going to pay less than 50%, then we can knock it on the head.
Well, we've got to wait to see what their contribution's going to be. So, proposer and seconder letter gets sent to Craig Taylor, asking for a decision on.
Well, I propose if they don't meet 50% of the cost, we won't take it any further.
You still got to send them a letter for that.
I'll second that one as well. At least it's buried then, there's no good. We put, if they're not going to pay for it, why should we? I'm not being funny, but that money we could. I'd sooner spend the money on paying someone £4,000 a year to put men in potholes. As a council, it's more responsible. What's more important, fixing the roads or putting a few signs up?
Yeah.
That's
In
for
my
you,
opinion.
that's for you councillors to decide.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, even for new sites, people still calculate.
It's,
They're showing them.
with a shiny new sign, you know, up by Mr. Hills there, it's worth, you know, widening a road is worth the risk. It's only 25 quid to park for a week
So-
over there, but it's
So we have a proposal that a letter gets sent to Cornwall Council asking
for
for a
50%.
50% contribution. If
Yeah,
that 50% is not
full
forthcoming,
we're not
then we carry on, but we leave it.
yes.
At least it's dealt with, isn't it? It's not
Yeah.
put on.
Right, so who proposed it? Secondly, you proposed it?
I'll second
So and so,
it.
show of hands, please. Right. Neighbourhood plan. Members to receive an update from Councillor Moore and Councillor Fisher on the progress of the neighbourhood plan survey. And judging from all the paperwork and emails that's been flying around, Pat has been working extremely hard in collating all the appropriate necessary documentation. So I hand it over to you, Pat.
I just want to say a little bit first about how we handle the questionnaires, because you'll have seen the report that went into the parish magazine, and also there is a collection of all the additional comments that people made. They're all there verbatim, so anybody can look at those. Adrian and I collected those questionnaires, and as each box was opened, the number was recorded and independently checked by an observer. So neither of us worked alone when we were doing this. No one else has had access to them, and they won't do so until we have the grant money and have secured the services of an independent and neutral contractor. They are confidential and have been treated as such. The only information lifted from them everyone has seen, either in the parish magazine or on our website. Now, I understand on good authority that it's been suggested that councillors were not to be trusted with the questionnaire, as they might alter or change the data. I am saddened but not altogether surprised that this is so, and it is to be regretted that this person might attribute to others aspects of their own behaviour and actions. They know who they are in the room. Further, I would remind you that analysing and reporting on surveys is a time-consuming occupation. Adrian and I spent 2 hours each on tallying that very straightforward statistical information. I spent a further 2 putting together the report for the magazine and the report on the website. And I've no idea how long Adrian spent putting the whole thing together and dealing with the survey company. And just for information, I do hold 2 research degrees, so I am qualified to do this. I know what I'm doing. And I would say that any grant money spent on a professional analysis will be well spent. An interesting point to notice that over 50 respondents gave us contact details and wished to be kept informed of developments. People responding online have automatically given us their details unless they put a tick in the box they don't want to be contacted. We can contact them. After that, we agreed that I would approach my locality, which is the organisation that's dealing with grant aid and all the rest of it. We put in an expression of interest. That was responded to. That was, I remember I went through the details at the last meeting of how many people we've got in the parish population and where we were on the deprivation index and all the rest of it. That was agreed, and we were told we could apply for grant aid. There is 30 days within which to do this, and it's fairly detailed. We know that we can apply for up to £9,000. We don't have to spend it all at once, and it's just as well we don't, because when you look at the timescales, the money, once you've got it, has got to be spent within 6 months or the end of the year, whichever is the sooner. So I looked at what we need to do. First thing is we've got to get this questionnaire and the responses analysed and a report written properly. We need to do a housing survey because that was one of the things that came out in the survey that's fairly well up on people's priorities. And we need to set up a steering group and to look at the channels of communication we have with people across the parish. Because the form is an official form, I had to stick my neck out, and I've actually done a project planner. This is the most unfriendly form you will ever come across. And at some stage, the steering group, when it's set up, will have to make that look pretty because that is not terribly friendly. I want to come back to those 50 people on the paper questionnaires and the other 22 who replied online. Those are the people who have shown an interest in being further involved with what we're doing. They want to engage with us, we want to engage with them. That is how you get it. I'm going to propose that part of the money that we get it because I don't know yet, we spend on writing to those people, asking them to consider whether they will become part of the steering group. There is a lot of work to be done. That is St Ives parish plan, and I've read bits of this. There is so much work to do in there. We need more people than we actually have on the council, and there are people out there who've got the kind of attributes and the skills that we need. We already have a website which has been commented on, and people do respond to that website. I have proposed that we set up a parallel website in the same way that other neighbourhood plan steering groups have done. Lou has got one, and it's got its own agenda. I don't mind, its own logo. I don't mind showing you this because it's the bridge, and it looks prettier and less officious or official than what we've got already. So there would be money concerned in setting that up. It's also useful in that further surveys can be completed online. It's very easy to do this. I was at a meeting of Lou's steering group the other day, which is composed of councillors and various representatives from the town. They're reaching out to visitors, to children, businesses. They're going wider than we have done already. We have used the blanket approach. We'll talk to anybody who is gets a copy of the parish news. That goes to 600 households. And don't forget that we got 994 people at the last count. They've got well over 2,000, I think it's approaching 3,000, isn't it? So the scale of the job that we have to do is less onerous. I'm going to ask Edwina in a minute to reinforce or to emphasise why it's important that we get this plan done and why we agree that we're going to try and get it done over the next year. Say, have it finished by May 17. Edwina, can I ask you to say what happens with the emerging plan once that is accepted and the effect that it has on everyone else?
Okay. When your neighbourhood plan has gone through all the process and it's been through the referendum and it is what's called made, that's what planning applications are then be determined on within your parish. I don't know exactly what you're going to be looking at. I've not had the benefit of seeing the responses, but I suspect it may be some issues around the conservation area. You want to perhaps control the look and feel of the village and protect what you feel is integral to Polruan and the rest of the parish. It's not just Polruan, not just Polruan. So it'll be the policies on which planning applications be determined on. So rather than you'll know them inside out. So rather than you saying, well, I don't know what we can refuse that application on, you will know because you would have, with the help of the community, have created those policies on which decisions are made, rather than just relying on a saved policy from Caradon or the National Planning Policy Framework. So the policies are shaped by you and by the community, and planning decisions are made on. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of neighbourhood planning is about where you see your parish developing, where understanding your need for housing, the need for leisure, the need for jobs, whatever it is that's important to your constituents, to your residents. And that has to be linked, if we find out, for example, that there's a big need for 5-bedroomed family homes. I don't know if that's true, but you need to know that. The fact I don't know is part of the problem. I don't think you know. You might think you know, but you need to have everything based on really strong evidence. So once you've got that evidence and you're saying this is our need, then the plan helps to deliver that need. So it's looking not just next year or the year after, it's looking forward to 15, 20 years' time, a little bit of crystal ball gazing, to see where you think the community of Lanteglos needs to develop and the sort of infrastructure that you need, the villagers and the parishioners need going forward. So it's sort of twofold, really. I think there are some byproducts to this process, and I use the example of the Roseland cluster group of parishes that came together. It was 5 parishes. Although their plan is been through referendum, it's been made, planning decisions are being made on the policies they created and the sense of direction that they wanted for their communities, they've not stopped, done the plan, that's the end of our story. They've got a group that advise the parish council on planning applications, not make decisions, thing like that. They say, we know that plan inside out, so we're keeping a weather eye on stuff that's coming through the planning system to make sure that it is, and officers for that matter, not just making sure that officers understand those planning policies. And they've gone even further than that. They have a community land trust on the Roseland, so they've created a vehicle to start to delivering particularly housing, which they feel low-cost housing, which is a real need for the people on the Roseland. So they've actively put out a call for land, old garages, disused bits of land, odd bits of land that landowners would be prepared to put into the community land trust to deliver future needs of the people of the Roseland that have been identified in the plan. They've also, what came out really strongly in the Roseland plan was about, they were really interested in the environment, about maintaining hedgerows, and just the feel of their parishes. So they've set up another little group, I think it's called Wild Roseland, that's looking at some of the issues that were drawn out in the neighbourhood plan, not necessarily direct planning issues, but there was something that they knew that the people of the Roseland were really keen to preserve and enhance. So they've got a little group. Now, well, that all came on the back of the neighbourhood plan group, and people came out of the woodwork. Well, I'm not particularly interested in planning, but I like this bit about. I really think it's important to deliver affordable housing for some local people, so I'm quite interested in getting involved in that. Another person might say, well, I think that bit of woodland over there that's got a bit neglected, needs a bit sorting out. I'd really like to get involved in that. People that have never been involved in civic life before. So I think there is an unintended consequence of bringing people together, is that you find common ground, that you can all work together to the betterment of your community. Is that a little bit what you want to say? Sorry, this wasn't arranged, so that's put me on the spot. It's all right, I don't mind.
No, I think it's just getting a feel for how, once the Cornwall plan becomes their plan, what we need to do is get what our policies that we develop aligned with that. Otherwise, we're not going to get them passed. It's as simple as that. So we need to talk to people, and we need to talk very widely. Now, coming back to the steering group, I've looked at what other neighbourhood planning groups have done. I've looked at Lou, and I will be attending the meetings. I looked at what Roseland did, and I looked at what Foy did. All of them had terms of reference for the steering group. Lou's is the tightest I have seen, in that the council decides what the terms of reference will be, and that then sets the working pattern and the rules of engagement, for want of another term, of how that steering group will work. It says who it will be composed of, what happens to it at the end of everything, what it needs to have a quorum, how it may spend money or may not spend money, and how much autonomy it has. Now, you can see from what I said about Lou, where I think it's probably a third or half of them are councillors. Does Mary say?
No, sorry, Chairman, I think there's actually more people that are non-councillors. There are 3 that are appointed by the council to serve on the steering group. And then there's a group of people that are businesses. We've got lots of organisations in the town. So the Harbour Commissioners, big landowner, integral to the town, so they need to be at the table. Eastleigh Town Trust, Development Trust as a charity, as a vehicle for future projects. So each community will have a different feel to it, and you must decide what you think your makeup should be. But I have to say there are more non-councillors. I don't know who was there on Wednesday, I didn't go, but the ones that, so I'm interim chair, so normally there are more non-councillors than councillors.
Yeah, I would have said it was, that's why I said probably about a third to 2/3.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Now, we're in a predicament because we haven't got any money yet. Yes, the application is in, and we can't spend money that we haven't got. If it is granted, and we don't know whether it will yet, once that money is in, it comes very quickly, and it will come by backs. So I'm going to need to have bank details, fingers crossed. I have another meeting with David Reed, Edwina, Teresa Perry, Zoe Beresford. No, what's her name? The planning.
Yeah, I can't remember her name now, yeah. She's the neighbourhood plan support officer. Yeah. I can't remember her name.
Because
Bernard Johns?
That's her, Zoe Bernard Johns. Because what we need to do is be very clear on what our housing needs are and how we identify what those are. Looking at the composition of the steering group and how we you know, looking at the terms of reference. I can't put any of that in front of you at the moment because I haven't got it. It's, you know, I've got bits of drafts, you know, looking at what other people have done. But bearing in mind that I've suggested that, or proposing that we go for a finish date, not of referendum and all the rest of it, by May 17, we've got just over a year to do that. Is it reasonable for me to suggest that I will get the draft out of the steering group terms of reference and send them out to you so that we can look at that for next meeting? And then as soon as I hear what we have or don't have, then we can start spending money. Now, one of the things I would like to do is to write to those people who identify themselves to us and ask them to consider becoming part of the steering group. Although we're not quite sure what we're going to be doing now. That's where I am.
We have first of all, do we need a proposal to authorise you for money for the neighbourhood plan to start the ball rolling? Do you need an advance for paperwork?
No, don't do that. We can't go down that route, John, because you can't do it retrospectively. You've got to have the money in the bank before you can start spending it.
So what do we need to do now? What proposal do we need now to give yourself and Adrian to move forward and be ready for the next meeting?
I would say, do we need to wait for the money though, and to ask for the people who wanted to be contacted in the questionnaire? We can go ahead and contact them now, can't
We can do that now.
So to find out if they want to be part of the neighbourhood plan group.
I propose that we send a letter to these contacts
Okay.
with the necessary wording as
Yeah.
appropriate, seen appropriate.
Right,
point.
so I'll
And
send
we
that.
give you and Adrian the go-ahead to carry on with the neighbourhood plan as you've suggested.
Yeah, thank you for your hard work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to Adrian as well. And thank you for your support.
You've done the majority of
No,
all this.
So do we need a proposal for anything there?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I propose it, someone said that.
And that would include draft terms of reference for the big work for the next meeting as well.
Is that enough time though, because it's going to be busy next
I
meeting?
think it's May or something.
Could the terms of reference be part of the annual parish council meeting? We've got a few meetings going on now. We've got the annual parish meeting next.
It's the 9th.
And then there's an annual parish council. Or is that going on with the
That
actual
would
meeting?
be the 22nd because you've got bank holiday last week, Monday in the month.
No, the
22nd or 23rd. 23rd, yeah.
Oh, so it's an earlier meeting anyway. Oh, that's...
That will be okay. I think
That's 3
that will be
weeks.
okay. Yeah. You know, by the time you've written to people and they've come back, that time, yeah. The other thing,
So what dates would you like the terms of reference to be ready for? The APCM?
Well, there'll be the 2 meetings on the 23rd, because will they be part of the parish council?
No, we're having an annual parish meeting on the 9th of May.
Yeah. But this can be read out, basically this information will be given out again then, won't it? To
Yeah.
the people,
yes, it will.
there'll be more members of the public then.
Did your annual parish council meeting?
But that would say, that's what I was asking, is that in terms of, because it's not relevant to the council, is it? It's a separate committee?
No, but it's the council has got to agree them. It
So
isn't
we are
the
like-
steering group agrees them, it's the council sets them for the steering group.
So those terms of reference belong to us?
Yes.
So yeah, that's what we go for the annual parish council meeting, can't it?
Yeah,
So could you
22nd.
propose what you would like to do, please? In clear terms, so
Yeah.
everybody left.
Right. First thing I think I got it from Toby, it's contact those people who
Okay, then.
who told us who they were, all 70 of them. And then that I prepare a draft terms of reference that you can have a look at and go through because it will be detailed, ready for ratification or not. On what date is that meeting?
23rd.
On the 23rd of May.
This will be mentioned at the annual parish meeting, wasn't it? 'Cause
Mm.
the parish, that's when the parish talks to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 23rd of May. The 9th is too soon.
I can propose that, someone said it.
So proposal process is clear.
Yeah.
We have draft terms of reference, emailed to all councillors for
Yeah.
their perusal,
Yes,
for ratification and non-ratification
on the 24th.
on the APCA. So we will tell the people at the annual parish meeting what we've discussed tonight.
That's a Thursday.
And so is there,
Just one silly question. If we decide whatever we do, is that set in stone or is it an evolving thing because things change in the real
Yeah.
world? So
Yeah.
can you amend it at some stage or does the next parish council amend it or
Yeah.
is it a developing thing or is it set in stone and that's it for the next
It's
25
set
years?
it's set fairly firmly because that is what people are going to work to. Now, if they find as they're going through that this isn't helping,
Yeah, that's what I
it
meant.
comes back to the council.
Right.
And I think, that's another thing that can be put into that as well.
You know, there might be something that we've agreed
Yeah.
and everybody's agreed and find out if it doesn't actually work. We might be better off doing something else that you can with and
Yeah.
and next year is the elections. Now, can a new parish council completely rewrite what you've set in motion?
Not if it's got to the thinking of what the end parts of the process are. We should have it. We tell Cornwall Council that we're ready to have it inspected, or is it then go for an independent inspector has to be appointed? Have I got that right?
Right, let's get the order right. Once you come up with your draft plan, you do a pre-submission consultation. So although there might be things that in the passage of time you think, oh, that wasn't quite right, there are so many points where you go out and ask parishioners what they think about it. So there's a good chance that if something is really not right, that will be picked up. So engagement and consultation with parishioners along the way is important. I think Gillian may well be able to answer this better because they're at the point of submission. So there's pre-submission consultation. It comes to Cornwall Council and you check where it's broadly compliant with the NPPF and the local plan, so broadly compliant. There is a degree of flexibility in there, as Gillian will tell you. Then once that's been through that process, then an independent inspector is appointed who checks it to make sure it is properly compliant. So it's independent inspector, like we're going through in Cornwall Council, an independent inspector. Then, have I missed that a bit? No, pre-submission consultation. Then it goes to the inspector, the council, then it goes to the inspector, then it goes to referendum. That's the process. And then it's what's called made, becomes the planning law. So there's a few technical things that need to be done. It's then a legal development management document and is a very strong material consideration in any planning applications. It's a good question about what happens if you want to review it. I think that you would probably write in maybe a 5-year review or whatever period of time that you think is appropriate. But if you are wanting to make changes year one, that there's something, your evidence trail is not right, you've not got the backing of the parishioners, there's something has gone awry if it gets to that stage.
There might be an earthquake or something major. No, but you know what I mean. There might be something major happen, and you just need to change it. You sort of can't do that because it's set in stone. That's what I mean. Is it actually set in stone, as in that's it? We don't waiver from it at all for the next 50 years.
No, you can.
Review
You can
it
put
after
in it.
so
You can put it. You can review it after whatever. I will ask that question because I don't know what that period of time is. I would have thought. I think that the local plan, we're probably looking at a 5-year review. So I would have thought 5 years. So it may be you want to coincide that review with the next election cycle. Entirely up to you.
So, can we, Julian, so proposal is to...
We've done that.
Yeah, well, we haven't voted on it yet, have we? Right. It all gets lost in the side yap. Right, so the proposal is draft term of references to be sent to us for councillors to peruse for ratification. Pat to write to all respondents who've expressed a wish to come out in the open and take part. Was there anything more?
I think that's enough of it.
Right. Show of hands, put proposal and seconder. Seconder, show of hands, please. Right. Right, next is diary dates for
No,
noting.
Chairman, there's a couple of
Phil,
other.
correspondence.
I reported to you a couple of meetings ago that we'd had a reply from Cheryl Murray about recording the meetings. She wrote to Marcus Jones MP, and we just had a response from him. Thank you for your letter the 4th of March to Writer Ron Greg Clark MP. On behalf of your constituent, Mr. Philip Tubber Castaway and Lanteglos by Foy, I don't know why they put it in my name. I am replying, Minister for Local Government. Openness and transparency are essential for robust local accountability, like all local government bodies. Parish councils are required to allow any member of the public to take photographs, film and audio record the proceedings and report on all public meetings. This legislative requirement was introduced in the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014. It is for the Council and all attendees to ensure they are acting within the bounds of all existing legislation. There is a plain English guide, Open and Accountable Local Government, available at www.gov.uk. Government uploads, systems, uploads attachment, data file 3431821408112.
I got lost.
Openness guide, PDF. This explains the law of the land, including laws surrounding data protection, defamation and public order offences, and that freedom of speech within the law should be exercised with personal and social responsibility. It also suggests that each council should consider adopting a policy on the filming of members of the public and ensure that they protect children, the vulnerable and other members of the public who actively object to being filmed, without undermining the broader transparency of the meeting. The Council should publish minutes of meetings and, if so wished, could also arrange to film and publish its own recordings of the meetings, which could serve to provide an accurate account. The Government currently has no plans to change these legislative requirements. I appreciate this may not be the response Mr. Tubb was hoping for, but I hope he will find it useful.
Here we are. Next item 049, closed session. In the view of special confidential nature of the business about to be transacted with regard to tenders for the toilet refurbishment and cutting the public footpaths, it is advisable in public interest that the press and the public be excluded, and they are instructed to withdraw. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.